Hey, remember that racing beetle from Donkey Kong 64? He taught me everything I know. Too bad it turns out he's a raving pedophile. But never mind about that.
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
Hello, I'm Chad McCanna.
And we need more fiber in our diets.
That's right. That was fecal straining that you were hearing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to record while on the shitter. It's just, I feel like it inspires creativity. I feel like I put in a better performance.
Yeah, and I like the seventh word out of my mouth to be fecal when I start a podcast.
It is the internet, and we like to play to that fetish crowd.
Do you remember that? There's this old SNL sketch, I think from the early aughts, late 90s, it was a talk show called Fecal Matters. Do you remember this one?
I don't remember that one.
And the guy's name was Fred Fecal, the host of the show, and it was just a completely mundane talk show. And then the guy and the guest was on. I think it was as themselves. I can't remember who it was, but they were basically the straight man in the sketch, and like, thank God, I thought we were going to talk about feces. And then he turns on a black light in his studio and everything is covered in feces.
See, I'm laughing at this sketch, but I know if I watched it, it would take 10 minutes to play out, and they would probably just grind the punchline into the ground,
Actually, that sketch never ended. They're still doing it today.
Or it could be a 10-to-1 sketch, and it'd be really funny, but Lorne Michaels would hate it.
Right. Yeah, the kind of thing that typically dies in the dress rehearsal.
Yeah, or makes it on 10-to-1 and Eastern time, that is. Sorry, Chad, you've only been on East Coast for a while. We call those last sketches of SNL that come 10 minutes before the show's over the 10-to-1 sketch.
Hey, I read the AV Club reviews of Saturday Night Live. I don't watch it, but I read the reviews of it.
I didn't know if you called them something different in Texas.
Yeah. Well, I come from a state that used to show Conan O'Brien at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, but you got Conan O'Brien to visit and make one of his best remote sketches ever.
No, it was Andy that visited.
No, it was Conan who visited because the guy asked him, where's the little fat dude? And it's not a show without the little fat dude.
Oh, I thought it was Andy that visited. Okay,
so
my memory's hazy. But then, yeah, we did. That's actually how Conan O'Brien met his wife.
No,
No. Well, it was later because it dovetailed into getting the Hilton Furniture guy.
Hilton Furniture, and then he took Hilton to
let's
New
back
York
up because we're
agency.
using a lot of shorthand, and we have listeners that have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, and
That's
they
never
want to know
stopped
the
us.
history of Conan O'Brien meeting his wife.
That's never stopped us before.
So, the Houston market.
We're really doing this.
They hated Conan. They put him on way too late. Conan protested. He put a spotlight on Houston. He had 2 advertisers in the middle of the night, the Look Ma No Hands guy and the Chainsaw Furniture guy, who would scream about his mattresses while wielding a chainsaw.
Yeah. No way, that's Macho Man Randy Savage.
We're cutting prices, and that's a fact, Jack. By the way, this guy, Hilton Furniture, I used to drive past his furniture store, and the reason his catchphrase was, "That's a fact, Jack," is because the building he moved into had a giant marquee that he never took down that just said Jack in giant bold letters.
I thought it was fact.
Huh?
I thought it was fact or some sort of.
No. Yeah, it was either. Oh yeah, no, it was fact. Yeah, because he would say, "Look for the fact sign." And his thing was, "We're cutting prices, and that's a fact, Jack." And he just decided we're never going to take down the fact. So anyway, the viewers of Conan responded. They thought that the best 3 a.m. sponsor of late night was the Chainsaw guy, so they flew him out to New York to do a proper Madison Avenue ad campaign. One of the people at the advertiser they took him to was Conan O'Brien's future wife.
He was attracted to this blonde lady, and but he was Conan O'Brien didn't have much self-esteem. He still probably doesn't. And he
yeah, well, America has spoken.
he asked his producer, whoever he was there with, "Can you get that woman's number for me?" He called her later.
Just goes to show you, those of you that have a little trouble with the ladies, it's not all fun and string dances. Eventually, you got to talk to them.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a very why do we always go with the late night talk show tangent? It's really not that interesting.
No,
and
it's not at all. But the
we
thing is,
don't really have any respect for that medium anyway.
Yeah,
It's just,
well, I guess we kind of have a passing interest because, as I established, I read the AV Club reviews of SNL without actually watching it. But
yeah,
I don't know why. It's a dead medium.
It's like, and especially now that Colbert is gone, or Colbert sold out, I should say, replacing Letterman. I don't know if he sold. We'll see what his show, we'll see what his show's like.
I trust Stephen Colbert.
I do too, but there's really nothing on late night TV right now to hold my interest. Larry Wilmore certainly doesn't. I'm sorry if that's some weak tea, but
yeah.
I just can't give it all my 100. You know, it's just
fuck it. I actually watched an episode of Larry Wilmore. You remember a couple months back, I said, "All right, I'm gonna let it establish itself, and then I'll check back in," because I hated it at first.
Even though Colbert was awesome from day one.
Yes, it has gotten worse. Larry Wilmore.
He's just like, he's coasting now. He's like coasting like Jon Stewart, even though it took Jon Stewart like 12 years to coast.
Yeah. At least Jon Stewart has some laurels to rest on. You know, this guy wrote for the PJs and Sister Sister and Bernie Mac.
Hey, the PJs. I remember that show. Well, I remember that it had like a manhole cover as its logo. That's all I remember about it.
Yeah, that's not really remembering the show.
Yeah.
I remember that they had a two-way Futurama crossover, though. That was kind of cool. Do you remember that one?
I don't.
Yeah, so in an episode of Futurama, they lift up a manhole cover to go visit the mutants, and it's the PJ's logo.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that really plays well in reruns today.
Right. But then on the PJs, which took place in New York present day back in 99, 2000, it was a stop motion show, and one of the little props they made was a milk carton that said a "Have you seen me" thing for Fry.
Oh.
Yeah, because in universe he would have disappeared.
Well, I'm sure people over at Futurama Tube or whatever the equivalent of DK Vine is in the Futurama community.
It's NNYC.com in New York City.
I'm sure people are wondering why they're not considering the PJs an official part of the Futurama universe. So
I say it is.
Well, but not by DKU rules. It wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, not by DKU rules. Yeah, maybe in Futurama's Cowboy universe.
That's right. Which they completely invalidated anyway by bringing in alternate universes. And
Hey! The professor invented those universes. At the time of the Cowboy universe joke, there were still just the two.
Okay, sure.
Anyway,
so I'll cede to you on any Futurama debates because you're much more passionate.
I've actually thought about the issue of my favorite Futurama joke, the Cowboy Universe joke, being invalidated by the Farnsworth parabox, and it is not, in fact, invalidated because those universes did not exist until he invented his universe box machine.
My favorite Futurama joke is and always will be John Larroquette's spine.
Oh, that was from Luck of the Friarish.
That was.
Yeah.
Otherwise emotional episode, and that just cuts right through it.
Now no one can ever say I don't own John Larroquette's spine. Oh, he also references I'm 2 skulls away from a Mouseketeer reunion. Grave robbing Bender is the best kind of Bender.
Take that, Annette Funicello. So anyway, we got a lot to discuss this week, Chad, and you do realize this is probably the last long, deep breath we have before sheer hell breaks loose.
Yeah. It's so normally we have sort of a gradual sloping up to E3, but
not even really a gradual sloping up. Usually we're just kind of crawling through the desert, trying to get to that oasis that is E3. Mm-hmm. We get there, and we're like, oh, finally, show content for a couple more months.
Yeah, and then it's the vitality sensor. Well, so this year, I don't even think we've had a proper winter shitfucks. Do you?
We had a winter. Oh, we did have a winter shitfucks, but it lasted far shorter than it usually does.
That was like the sort. It was like a Houston winter shitfucks, where winter lasts for 2 weeks in January.
Well, that's climate change for you. I mean,
right. Well,
It's just, I mean, man-made video game news is raining down on us. And I'm sorry, I know some people are going to think this is just a natural cycle, but this is not the way it works, people.
yeah, the gaming oceanic jet streams are shifting.
We're releasing far too much CO2 in the air, and in exchange we're getting Conquer and Project Spark and the Renaissance. So
Yeah. Not to mention Playtonic, which is going to really kick off this blast of media attention on May 1st when their Kickstarter launches.
oh god, that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away from that. Like,
But we still need to discuss. Oh my God! How do we have time to discuss all of this?
I think we might have to postpone that the DK64 spotlight. There's just too much.
I don't know, because we're gonna have to buy some time until we both get our Xbox situations settled. Because we want to give Conquer its due diligence, I guess you might want to say, but we can't really do that until we have the proper setup. And
I like
my God,
I like that you refer to owning an Xbox One as an Xbox situation. Like, you don't even want to say go purchase an Xbox.
it just seems so contrary to everything I had believed for the past 2 years, and now I'm just like, oh yeah, I gotta buy that Xbox One. I gotta buy that Xbox
like
One.
I went last generation. I had a 360, and that was
So did I.
that was mostly for the Banjo ports, to be honest.
It makes a great coaster.
Yeah, and then I got rid of it after I had exhausted my the games that I wanted to play, and went with a PS3, which I enjoyed quite a bit, and I had assumed I was going to go PS4 this generation, to augment the Wii, because that's basically how console generations work these days.
You buy either an Xbox or PlayStation, and you buy the Nintendo system.
Precisely. But there are even some PS4 exclusives like Bloodborne that I'm really interested in. But I mean, right now I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that I'm going to have to get an Xbox One. What I'm holding out for is Rare showing at E3. If they show anything that's not Kinect Sports, I'm probably going to make the plunge.
I'm so much of a pussy whipped fanboy that Conquer and Project Spark is enough to get me to buy the expensive version of the Xbox One with the Kinect, just so I can have the Kinect capabilities when I'm making my Conquer shit in Project Spark.
Oh shit, I forgot about that, because I was planning on, if I didn't go Xbox One, to play Conquer on Windows 8. But I forgot about the Kinect thing.
Yeah, and
Damn it.
I mean, I'm probably going to get the Windows version too, because, again, pussy whipped fanboy.
You got to have both. You
Gotta have both.
Well, you don't have to duplicate the slush fund, because they're not individual game entries, right?
Oh, but I will eventually.
You'll play it all the way through on the... Really?
Because I'm a weirdo, Chad.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm a weirdo. Look. We've known each other how long? 16 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you're never gonna change me, baby. I'm just the way I am.
Accept me for my skin, man. I live in it, and this is who it is.
I was this way when I was Bloodborne.
It does look like a cool game, though.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't have time to read news that isn't related to the DKU at this point. There's so much DKU news.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Bloodborne is kind of like a cross between Dark Souls and Kingdom of Amalur, as composed by Grant Kirkhope. So it looks pretty cool to me.
Oh, cool. Okay, well. Anyway, so we've got calls to take, and we could sit here and waste more time talking about the Star Wars trailer. Looks really cool.
It does, surprisingly, yeah.
Surprisingly. Well, why did you think it wouldn't?
Okay.
I don't understand this cynicism towards this. Yes, it's just to make money. Yes, blah blah blah.
Oh, well, Disney. I don't care about that. I mean,
it's just Disney churning Star Wars films out now to the end of time, whatever. But really, after how far the franchise sunk, why is it any surprise that this is going to look vastly superior to, let's say, the last 3 movies we got?
Okay, well, maybe surprise is the wrong thing to say.
Were you surprised how it stirred emotions in you?
Yes, that's the key. I was surprised at how piqued my interest was after watching it.
I was in on the teaser trailer last Christmas, but this one actually invoked awe in me.
Yeah, there were some story elements. The last one was just familiar imagery, slightly adjusted familiar imagery, and that was the teaser. This one, there's actually they're without giving it away to anyone who wants to go spoiler free into Star Wars.
Spoiler alert! We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, this isn't a Star Wars show. I don't want to. Anyway,
this is the teaser trailer. Who the hell cares?
It contained some actual story and character elements that
Are you going to live in a cave for the next 8 months? No.
All right, fine. Anyway, we got a little bit of the classic cast, and we got a little bit of the new cast, and there were some practical effects. I mean, it's basically, it's J.J. Abrams. I'm glad that he's doing it. So
it's J.J. Abrams adjusting his style for Star Wars. It's not just J.J. Abrams steamrolling Star Wars with his style. And I feel
yeah, he hasn't done that for any other franchises, has he?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the important distinction. Like, with Star Trek, I feel like there's not as distinctive as a look. It's more fluid, so you can kind of, and his whole reason for coming in was to reinvent Star Trek for a new audience. Mm-hmm. So with Star Wars, you kind of just want to put your own filling into the mold. You know what I mean?
Well, you do want to reinvent it for a new audience, but what you want, you want to de-reinvent it for a new audience.
Yeah. You want to get back to that classic circa 1980 look.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about this. It, like I said, it inspired awe in me. Seeing that downed Star Destroyer in the desert.
That was cool.
That was like, okay, this is a big, grand universe. And what I love is that sense of history you got in the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. Now the original trilogy is that history. So you've kind of got these layers, and I don't know if you want to say it's like poetry yet. I don't know if it's rhyming really, but
well, I was a little disappointed that they weren't filling the frame with so much density.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I wasn't overwhelmed by it. It was, it just wasn't dense enough for me.
Right. Well, I don't have any pizza rolls, so we should probably move on.
Okay. Fine. Very, very well. Why don't we take some calls, because we're sitting on some calls. They just piling up.
Well, I'll tell you why we shouldn't take some calls, because we need to get through some due diligence.
Oh, well, let's get through. I'm sorry. I apologize to Mr. Illigence.
Yeah, his widow, anyway.
Well, he has numerous widows. Honestly, he keeps getting married. I don't know how he's managing that, considering he's been dead for 20 years.
Yeah, well, holograms. And prosthetic golfing fingers.
The things he can do with those prosthetic golfing fingers.
Oh boy, that's why the ladies keep coming. After he's 6 feet under. So if you want to call the Kongversation, dial 1-281-410, end a word. That word is Kong 5664.
It's amazing more people. It's amazing we get as many calls as we do, considering how often we make it very hard to decipher what exactly our phone number is.
1-281-410-5664. Give us a ring. Leave a message. If you fuck it up, hang up and call again and leave it right the second time.
You would be amazed at the amount of people who do that.
We've had people who hang up like 5 times in a row, and I usually, when I realize that's what's happening, because I can look at the call log and see, oh, same number, with calls like 3 minutes apart. I usually just go to the last one and listen to that.
And look, we understand you want to be super articulate and charismatic, but that really doesn't stop us from playing your call. I mean, like, if you're just totally monotone and devoid of personality, you're probably going to get on the show.
We don't all have to be Malik here.
No.
Also, it is, we joke, but it has literally never been a better time to join the forum. It's kind of exploding now.
You know what? We make these jokes. We make these silly little back and forth, these little ha-ha moments.
We like to have a jape or two.
We really do. We like to have a jungle jape, and especially now. I just had a little bit of a jungle jape earlier today.
I was japing not 20 minutes ago.
That's right. So we do like to joke, but honestly, there are these moments on the DK Vine forum that become of legend, and if you come onto the forum at a later date, you kind of wish you were a part of that. There's those moments like E3 2010 when Donkey Kong Country returned, and it was just this galvanizing moment where all the fans, all the old people from the forum came back, found their way back to DK Vine to celebrate this moment. The long drought was over. The buyout era was dead.
And that thread is delightful to read because the moment where Reggie said you can hear it coming, it's like there are like 3 pages of people just writing all caps gibberish.
yeah. And another moment, E3 2013 with Tropical Freeze. And the funny thing is that reaction was surprisingly muted up until the announcement early in the afternoon that David Wise was coming back, and then it exploded.
Right.
And
well, I think people we were all really excited about Dixie, but it was the David Wise thing was like, oh, they're actually doing this right.
I think there was a little bit of butthurt over the Kremlings. A lack of Kremlings, and it wasn't until David Wise was confirmed that we were like, oh, who the fuck cares? This is going to be great.
Right. And also the Snowmads have personality, so hey.
And I think it took a while for that to sink in too. Yeah. I think there was a little bit of disbelief that day because a lot of people just weren't expecting a new DKC.
Right. We were sort of shell-shocked and we didn't know how to react.
I was expecting it, but I always come in with blind optimism, so it's really
still holding out for Perry the Parallel Bird Adventures.
I feel like this is going to be our year.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, so this E3, we know we're getting some news of some sort. And, who knows? Maybe it'll be a complete bust. But I would say the odds are far less that it's going to be a bust this year than ever before.
But what you're saying are there's a series of not only in-jokes like our world-famous pinned bear rape thread, but or outbursts about Sakurai and his living status.
Well, you know what? Fuck that guy. Seriously.
But there are these really great community moments, and I think that, this E3, we were just talking about the ramp up and how news is already on fire. E3 is going to be one of those where you want to be in a community full of like-minded weirdos, and DK Vine is just that community.
It's really, where were you? It's one of those moments like, where were you when JFK was shot?
Right.
Well, most of you probably weren't even born. I would wager the vast majority of you weren't born.
Where were you when Donkey Kong Coconut Crackers was announced?
I was actually, I was in school, but I got home and checked AOL. Anyway, so, to be able to share that with, again, like-minded weirdos, it's really the greatest thing in the world, and it's why I look forward to E3 every year, just for the chance that I can have those moments. And so, really, never been a better time to join. You want to get in on the ground floor on that. And, if you join now, introduce yourself, become part of the forum. That way you'll be integrated in time for E3, right?
Precisely.
Okay, so Meanwhile, the Kongversation is a thing, so subscribe to it on iTunes, and also while you're at it, rate us on iTunes. We really do appreciate any feedback, positive or negative. We'd prefer the positive, but we understand if you hate our guts. But anyway, tell your friends about the show. Seriously.
Please do. If there's someone you think might enjoy 10 minutes of asides about late night talk shows, and or Donkey Kong universe discussion,
which is really secondary, but
it did.
Where else are you gonna get it?
We still haven't dug into it yet, and we're 23 minutes in. Tell them about the show.
I was playing Donkey Kong 64, so taking a while for it to really ramp up is just kind of in my blood right now.
Right. We're just collecting all the Conan O'Brien bananas at the moment.
This is really just like the training barrel segment.
Anyway, if there's anyone who you think might enjoy it, turn them on to the show. See what you can do to do a little proselytizing for us. And what?
Like you want to stick their finger in their butts?
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
See? Yes, and. This is how improv works. Yes, and bring the conversation to a screeching halt.
We should teach an improv class. We really should.
You're not referencing Honker the Skunk enough.
Maybe we should do that like at the very first Kongvention, because the Star Wars celebration that's streaming today, it's really getting me hankering to launch a Kongvention, and that should be one of the featured panels is improv with Hyle and Chad.
Oh Jesus Christ! We'll bring up members of the audience like Mamechi. Hey guys, I work in a candy store. I don't mean Candy Kong. Was that good improv?
Actually, that was great improv.
Thank you.
Momechi, we love you.
This is Doom Kong. I will say something funny in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, the Kongversation would be shut down because Doom Kong keeps calling in bomb threats.
No, he keeps calling it apocalypse threats. Anyway, if there's what I was trying to say is if there's a venue that besides iTunes that you would like to hear the show, maybe you're a YouTube listener, but
oh god, it takes so long to get it up on YouTube as it is. Don't.
No. I'm saying like maybe there's another place we can point our iTunes RSS feed. Come on the forum and give us some feedback. We do want to make the show as accessible as possible.
That's true. That's right. That's why we start with references to 20-year-old Conan O'Brien sketches.
It's exactly right. That require a lot of explanation.
Anyway, so meanwhile, DK Vine, which is the kind of the broader category that the Kongversation is wedged into. It's the broader web, and the Kongversation is kind of like the spider in that web. What am I talking about?
I don't know.
DK Vine, we're on social media. We're all up in social media because we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Tumblr. YouTube is not really social media, but we still have a YouTube channel, which you might be listening to this show on right now. As of this week, we're also on Instagram.
That's right. My wife Janelle is actually spearheading our Instagram. So if you are an Instagrammer, our account is DKVine, DOTCOM, because apparently DKVine was taken already.
Why?
Yeah, someone beat us to the punch, and they're probably squatting on it, hoping that we'll pay up. But nope, we're incredibly cheap. Anyway, she's doing daily features 5 days a week, all through the weekdays, and it's things like
she can't work on the weekend, can she?
We have Henry Ford to thank for that.
Well, I update Facebook on the weekend, more so on the weekend even.
You schedule it. Anyway, there are some really cool features. She's doing things like Timber dating profiles for DKU characters, which is a play on Tinder. There are DKU animal facts. There's the life of Diddy, where Diddy, the new Jack specific Diddy Kong figure is seen exploring the world.
Oh, did you get that?
Yeah, we did. In fact,
so did I.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Actually,
we'll have to talk about that.
It's Thursday. That was today's Instagram feature. So if Hyle followed our Instagram feed, he would have known that.
I don't know. I prefer the Facebook page myself.
Fuck off. Anyway, there's some great content on there. We're actually, for this week and next week, we are going to be mirroring that content on our Twitter feed to hopefully drive some traffic there. But hey, if you Instagram, give it a follow. There's some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We're everywhere right now.
Yeah, all over the fucking place. You can't avoid us. And we want to have unique content on every one of our social media platforms to our folly.
Yeah, I was like, how much unique content can you really have when discussing these games? Eventually, we're going to start circling the drain.
Oh, we started circling that drain years ago, my friend.
Fair. I guess it helps that somebody different is in charge of each social media page.
Right. Yeah. Everything has a unique voice.
Janelle on Instagram, Cameron on Tumblr. You've taken over the Twitter, right. And it's me over on Facebook. Hello.
Right. And by the way, if you want just a quick shorthand to access any of these, go to dkvine.com/Facebook/Twitter/Tumblr/YouTube or /Instagram now, and they will forward you to our exact account on all of those services.
What about dkvine.com/RedTube?
Try it. See what happens.
There's not going to be anything there. Is there?
You never know. It depends on if I can fucking be bothered to do it.
Yeah, but Ringo's getting into the Hall of Fame this weekend, so you probably can't be bothered.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Ringo, huh? Is he the last one?
Yeah, Paul actually asked them, seriously, guys, what's it going to take to get Ringo into the Hall of Fame by himself? And they basically said, if you induct him. So Paul said, okay.
Seriously? Oh, poor Ringo.
I know, but...
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
You know, it don't come easy, Hall of Fame nomination.
Just don't. Oh, God. Is the All-Star Band going to be there, or is it just Ringo?
I'm hoping the All-Star Band gets an induction sooner or later.
Jesus. The backup for the backup Beatle.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the All-Star Band has like members of Toto, and I forget who's in it now.
Well, at
I
one
think
point it had members of Toto.
Yeah, I mean it changes every year. So
All right, so that's our due diligence. Tell your friends, social media, subscribe, hotline, forum. Hooray!
With that enthusiasm, we're sure to get more followers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as I alluded to earlier, we do have a lot of calls to take. They've been piling up. We better get through them because who knows when the next time we're going to be able to take calls is.
Yeah.
Hey, Hyle and Chad. This is ILDC from the forum. I'm going to keep my first call short, sweet, and simple and ask, have you guys ever explained how exactly an episode of the Kongversation is usually made? Like, what's your favorite time of the week to record? How much of it is done seat of the pants and all that good stuff? Okay, I think I'm done for now. Bye.
Well, thank you, ILDC, and it sounded like you had trouble with your name there. I guess you don't often read your DK Vine forum name out loud, but thank you for the call. I don't know, we've kind of alluded to how the show was made, but we've never really gotten to the nitty-gritty, nor do I think we really need to.
It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. To answer the question of how much of it is by the seat of our pants, all of it.
No, I mean, that's not necessarily true. We do plan out in advance what we're going to be talking about.
Loosely, very loosely.
All right, I've got a whole schedule here of basically the next month plotted out.
Okay, yeah, but you just did that tonight.
No,
Probably to show off to ILDC.
Oh, no, that's been up there for a while. Now, granted, we do amend it as news comes out, which has been happening at greater frequency lately.
So generally, I mean, the show posts on Saturday. Maybe we should take it kind of a timeline.
God, there's a timeline.
We usually record on a weekly basis. Show goes up Saturday, but we record most times on Thursday evening.
Sometimes we record the day of, though.
Yeah, that's true. It's either Thursday evening or first thing Saturday morning. When we record. If it's a Thursday record, then it'll go up Saturday morning. If it's a Saturday morning record, it'll go up Saturday afternoon.
Unless we have a guest, then we need to accommodate them, and then we'll just bend over backwards.
Right. Like, we both took the day off work when Chris Sutherland came on because, if we had tried to do it after our work, it would be his dinner time, and we're not gonna disrupt Chris Sutherland's dinner. Are you crazy? So I mean, we operate
the man has to eat. He's making Project Ukulele. Come on.
That's right. There are minions that need programming. We work around guest schedules as much as we can, but generally Thursday, and we sort of talk. Hyle and I meet several times a week to work on DK Vine and other projects like Lobo Destroyo. So we have an open dialogue about what the upcoming show's subject matter is going to be, but maybe.
But then we save it for the show because we can't talk about. It really does limit what conversations we can have because we have to save anything relevant for the show.
Yeah, all we can really talk about these days is what we are going to talk about when we start recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more late night talk show minutia.
We also talk about personal matters like rashes that have appeared on our bodies.
Oh, well, yeah, you need a rash support group.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everyone's right as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes if something breaks the day before, we'll say, well, this is the whole show, or if there's like a surprise Nintendo Direct, obviously that's going to be probably most of the news. So we'll text back and forth throughout the day. Do we want to cover this? Are we still good with the plan? And then we just basically start recording, and then it gets into the actual production.
Yeah, and it's really simple. I think we do it like most podcasts in that we just record separate audio channels and slap them together.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the podcasts, like the more professional ones I listen to, are usually recorded in the same physical space.
Right. Okay. The podcast with the budget, sure.
Right. Or the Los Angeles-based podcast, that kind of stuff. But
yeah, this isn't Mark Maron here. All right. This is the Conversation. we're lucky we're not doing this in cardboard boxes with cans on us with a string attached.
Yeah. It's WTF. I say CPT.
That doesn't even make sense.
No, it's just my favorite acronym for obvious reasons. No, so since we're geographically separated, and this also allows us to have
not just Chad and I, but the whole DK Vine staff.
Right. None of us live in the same city, and many of us live in different countries. Right.
Yeah. Which I like it. It makes the show more international in flavor.
Right. And so what we do is basically get on a Skype call. We all wear headphones, and we.
This is just becoming.
This
boring.
is so boring. Thanks, ILDC. And then we all start recording in either Audacity or Adobe Audition, whatever we like. And then we all try and tap the microphone at the same time, which is the same concept as those. When you see on movies, they have those marker and they clack it. It's basically just a way for us to sync up everyone's audio. Everyone records. We take it into some program like Audacity or Audition, sync up everyone's track, and master it out. Every now and then we may cut something out, like that time I slagged off 4chan and they said they're going to hack our site. But, for the most part...
Hold on, let me mark down the time to edit that.
Oh, yeah, that's a 35 minutes and 10 seconds. Okay, we got to cut that out. But, and we add in the phone calls and make sure that... because Skype makes it difficult to listen to audio as you're recording audio. So
we do listen to the calls. We just listen to them before we start recording.
As accurate as Google's transcripts of the calls are, we do still listen to them.
We should just read out some Google transcriptions at some point. Because
I've done it before on the show when we had one that was completely unintelligible.
I know, but instead of actually playing the calls, we should we just turn this show into kind of an interpretive dance. Mm-hmm. Whatever we choose the calls to be, that's what they are.
Say what you will about Mamechi's enthusiasm, but that cadence feeds right into Google's translator. Pitch perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's basically it. Then we sync them up, master it out, throw on the intro and the outro, and Bob's your uncle.
I should say, very little of the show is actually edited, because the whole point of this show was to not fall into the same trap as the Vine Donkey Kong audio program, which was our show previously to this one, because that was so overproduced and it became such a I don't know.
Monumental?
No, not monumental. That's giving it far too great weight.
Hey, it was a good show. Come on.
It was a good show. Yeah, it was. But it was just too much of a motion picture rather than a podcast.
Right. There was no way to sustain. We laughably, I think we were trying to stick to a once every 2 week schedule, which is fucking insane. Yeah. There's that show is it collapsed under its own weight.
Right, which it needed to happen, because inevitably anything Chad and I are going to work on will turn into a sprawling sci-fi comedy epic.
Yeah. Just wait to see what happens to the Ape Raper.
We had to get it out of our system to be able to do this show.
Right.
Really.
And I remember when we first started this show, I had to fight my own instincts to not go in there and, this little back and forth could be tightened up by a half second here. And I really had to fight to just let it be. It was very difficult. Here comes Hyle with the Beatles reference.
Yeah, it was really like recording in Twickenham Studios. Just
I knew it.
The energy just wasn't there. It wasn't until we actually moved over to Apple to record that it just really brought that warmer sensibility. Mm-hmm. And then Billy Preston came in, and
satisfied ILDC. Good.
By the way, is that I live in DC? Is that what your name signifies?
I think it's I love. I don't know. I was thinking like
I
an
love
LL
DC.
Cool J thing, but no.
I'm just wondering if it is I love DC. Maybe he's the guy who flew his gyrocopter onto the Capitol grounds this week.
No, that was Dixie and Kitty.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody on the news is referring to gyrocopters, and there's so much befuddlement, what's a gyrocopter? And you Philistines have never played DKC 3.
Yeah.
Or you at least never beat it.
Clearly you've never met Queen Banana Bird.
At the very least, you could have played the Game Boy Advance port of Donkey Kong Country 2. And now I don't know who to trust in the news media, because none of them know this basic stuff. I
Yeah.
mean,
it's obvious, really. This is why no one trusts the mainstream media.
the lamestream media.
That's right.
Trademark Sarah Palin.
Hey, it's Randall, and I'm calling with a question, and I just to prepare you in advance, this question may take to like somewhat Memechi like levels of wackiness, so just hear me out. So you guys were discussing the other week about Retro finally kind of trying to set straight the relationship between Cranky Kong and Donkey Kong. And then kind of settling on him as the grandfather instead of the father, as Rare kind of originally tried to do it. And I was wondering what you would think if that would open up like a storyline where maybe Donkey Kong's like actual father, who's like Cranky Kong's son, his father maybe like comes back as kind of like this like evil, I don't know, like some kind of villain, maybe try to take over Donkey Kong Island, maybe even attack or kidnap Cranky Kong. I know everyone's looking forward to K. Rool returning, but I'm thinking like maybe as a game idea, maybe he either works, like let's say we know already on the Savannah Islands there's the baboon, whatever, that are clearly kind of enemies with Donkey. Maybe he's kind of allied with them, or there's some kind of resistance, or maybe even this is where it gets really crazy, is if like maybe he's been like kind of hiding out his K. Rool the whole time as kind of like some kind of costume where he's kind of like leading them against him for some kind of reason. I haven't really thought that part out yet, but like he's kind of leading an insurgence on DK Island, and that's maybe why K. Rool's always like changing costumes. Like he's kind of this like deranged kind of crazy father and kind of hiding out, and I don't know. Anyway, it's just an idea floating around, so I want to know what you guys think of it. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Wow, Tony Randall calls in. Thank you.
He just goes by his last name, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since he died, he doesn't really have the energy to go by Tony anymore. Anyway, thank you. I don't know.
Maybe he was revived from rolling in his grave, given the Odd Couple remake.
Yeah, but to be fair, his Odd Couple was a remake.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, because
it was Walter Lemon and Jack Matthau, and not those names, but they're opposite.
I was gonna say, what?
My brain is scrambled.
Are you? Did you have a stroke?
Yeah, I think so. That's why that phone call smelled like toast.
I like how he name drops Memechi. I like how Memechi has just kind of become a character in his own right in the greater lore of this show.
Yeah. But so that's an interesting note, though. So as you alluded, yes, originally DK was Cranky's son under Rare.
Well, kind of. I mean, first they referred to him as his grandfather, then they went to the son thing. And then
in game in Donkey Kong 64, and I know that because I just saw it like 32 minutes ago.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And also, I think that's kind of funny that it happened right with the rise of DK Vine.
Mm-hmm.
So we debuted in August 1999, you know, with the gospel that Cranky is Donkey's father,
mm-hmm.
and if you're wrong if you believe otherwise. And then here comes DK64 3 months later saying the same thing, and we were like, right on.
Hey, when DK Vine debuted, DK64 had not gone gold yet. Just saying. We're the tastemakers, always have been.
Of course, we may have also been pushing Lee on scribes in that direction long before DK Vine.
That's also possible.
I'm not saying we're responsible for that, but I think Lee Loveday clearly believed the same thing. So
anyway, yeah. So but then Retro came along, and while they did revert to Cranky as Donkey's grandfather, they also alluded to the fact in Returns that he was raised by Cranky.
Yeah.
So he had a line, "I didn't raise you in a barn."
Right. So it was kind of a nice compromise between the two conflicting canons in that it was like, okay, yeah. So Cranky probably thinks of himself as Donkey's father sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But from a family tree point of view, it's his grandfather. So that missing generation you discussed. What would you think, Hyle, about a game in which not only do they address that gap in the family tree, but they make him a villain?
Well, why him? It could be his mother.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, I for some reason I mean, obviously there's no way of knowing because this is all just conjecture, but for some reason I'm more fond of the idea that it's Cranky and Wrinkly's daughter that's the missing generation here, and she gave birth to Donkey, maybe Swanky too, who knows? But because I'm still fond of the fanon that Swanky may be DK's brother.
Yeah,
but
who just got a perm in high school.
Yeah, well, it also, I really like this. The Arrested Development fan of me just really likes them having a Michael Job relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I, it could be father, could be mother. I think a villainous mother might be interesting. I don't know. It depends. What the missing generation is. I think it'd be interesting if they believed them to be dead and then they come back as a villain. They don't have to come back as a villain, but I think that is an interesting angle to take.
Yeah, I think that's the path less taken.
Yeah.
So it is the kind of thing that I like the idea of sort of a misdirect of. You mentioned, Randall, that he would be in a K. Rool costume. I don't know if we'd want to get that on the nose with it, but I
think that would piss off too many people, especially if that's the first time K. Rool appeared in years.
Right, but I think that if nothing else, the twist that should be saved for some twist at some point in the game. Like you don't want that to be the promotional materials that the Donkey Kong's long lost parent is the bad guy.
Well, that's not really a great marketing gimmick anyway.
No one
who the
gives
fuck
a
cares?
yeah.
Like,
wait,
except us.
What do you mean that thing from the arcade that has a dad? No, that's Donkey's great grandfather.
What you would want to do is early in the game have dialogue that says, that makes kind of vague references to this missing generation, and then have it be revealed at the end, that they're responsible. I don't know how you would do it or what the motivating factor would be, but
they should probably go with like what they do in Skyrim, where they can flesh out the lore in a series of books that you find, and and so basically it could just be like Donkey's junior high journal, where he's really sad about how his parents don't love him.
It could be like that Fresh Prince episode where his dad comes back.
What's wrong with me, Uncle Phil?
Why don't he love me? What's wrong?
That is we joke, but every time I watch that, I fucking tear up. That is like an amazing sitcom moment.
Yeah, but then he hardened up and he joined the Air Force and he saved the Earth from the aliens. So ultimately, I feel like we should thank his deadbeat father.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he could have been at a barbecue.
What?
That was an Independence Day line.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's been years since I've seen Independence Day. When's that coming to the Virtual Console?
Well, it may be soon, considering they're actually moving forward with the fucking Independence Day sequel.
Oh god.
Minus Will Smith, but it will involve Jeff Goldblum.
Well, that's probably because Will Smith doesn't want to offend Xenu.
Jesus.
Because he's a secret Scientologist.
Secret? I thought that was pretty out in the open.
They try to make it a secret, but it's I think everybody knows at this point.
It's funny that like everything Scientology wanted to keep a secret, including like the fourth level story of Xenu and the Thetans and the Galactic Conquest, is now completely out in the open. So there's no financial incentive to get to that level.
L. Ron Hubbard never really foresaw the coming of the internet, so he was a pretty shitty sci-fi writer as is.
Yeah.
Not much of a visionary, but great cult leader.
Well, if there's anything we can remember him for, let it be his cult leadership.
That's right. And should we edit that part out, because they can be kind of litigious, those Scientologists.
Hey, either it's gonna be anarchic taking down the site, or incredibly organized taking down the site. We're gonna get taken down one way or the other.
Anyway, thanks for the call, Randall.
Yeah.
Hello, Kong and Hyle. This is I'm former President George W. Bush here. Now, I believe there's an old saying that goes, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Now, once that step is made, the rest of the miles is a whole lot easier. Now, Microsoft and Nintendo have made such steps with such hits as DK64 and the possible Delk for Super Smashing Brothers. These are the first stones in the river. Do you, as American citizens, believe that they are first of many? Well, Diddy Kong Racing, follow? Maybe Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye? Thank you, and God bless America.
Oh my God, Hyle, we have been given a treat.
Yeah, we have.
This is kind of awe-inspiring. I mean, hey, it's not my president, but it's a president.
Yeah, he was never my president, Chad.
Well, technically, he was both of our president.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
technically Al Gore was my president.
Well, technically, if you don't care about the Electoral College or voting fraud.
Yeah. Now, granted, this I think 43 here has a bit of a cold
Because he sounds kind of like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, I've heard many 43 speeches in my life, and I can honestly say he's never sounded like this.
Yeah, it's I think it might be all he's inhaling a lot of paint thinner in his new post-presidential career.
Right.
It might be
right.
affecting his voice.
Well, he should probably get that checked out because can't be good, can't be healthy.
So anyway, what does President Bush, 43, old bushy boy, what does he have to ask us? Something about crossovers between Microsoft and Nintendo. It was hard to focus on his question.
I really had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. I
don't know how to answer this.
Was he asking that? What are we gonna see like next, as far as like on the virtual console, or?
Let's just move on.
Okay. I'm gonna say we're gonna see Diddy Kong Racing. That's my answer.
Wii U or virtual console?
Both.
Perfect. See, I don't even know what the fuck he was asking.
Hi, I'm Gibbon, and unlike Daisy, that's the last time you will ever hear me say that. So, long-time listener, first-time caller. Nintendo proper likes to reboot Donkey Kong every 10 years or so. This was first done in 1994 with DK94, which replaced the arcade games and abolished the Mario was ever a bad guy preconception with Donkey Kong Country, and just kind of ran with that, with the tie and Big Ape City and all that stuff. And then when the buyout happened in around 2004, we got Mario vs. Donkey Kong and its continuing series, which kind of replaced the arcade stuff again, establishing a new relationship between Mario and Donkey Kong, and having Donkey Kong meet Pauline for the first time again, and abolishing any mention of Junior and introducing baby Donkey Kong and stuff. And, of course, Jungle Beat, which was intended to be a new replacement for Donkey Kong Country, and we all know how that turned out. But where I'm going with this, so I don't just talk everyone's ears off, is it's been about 10 years, and there's been some talk of Retro handing off the reins to somebody else and not working on Donkey Kong for a while. So I was wondering if you guys thought we were due for another reboot, and how you think it'll go this time. Yeah, I think that's everything. Bye.
Oh, Gibbon! Nice.
I'm pretty sure this is I Am Gibbon from the DK Vine forum.
Well, he did say I'm Gibbon, so
I'm Gibbon, yeah, but he did. So is that how you? It's like his full name Ian Michael Gibbon, or like what? What is the I Am?
Yeah, he's my favorite member of the state. Anyway, it's great to have a long time, first time. So welcome to the DK Vine hotline.
Right.
To that amazing 2-minute experience you had a week ago.
Now your question, I kind of find a little bit of fault with the premise of it.
So you're gonna pull a Bartlett and not accept the premise.
That's right. Bartlett was my favorite 43rd president.
Yes.
Or was he supposed to be the 42nd president? He was supposed to be. I don't know, because the West Wing timeline was weird because
It was
Bartlett
2 years offset.
Well, he would have became president in like 98, right?
Yeah, so that's still 43. Hey,
Yeah.
Clinton would have been president up to although there was a little. It's like at a certain point, I think maybe around the Kennedy assassination.
I'm sorry, I am Gibbon. I'm sorry.
The history diverges in the West Wing universe.
They still had Nixon because they made reference to Nixon once.
That's true. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think after Nixon, that's when the timeline changed. They didn't have a Reagan. They didn't have. I don't think they had a Jimmy Carter or.
It
Gerald
was
Ford,
still
so.
night in America.
Right.
So
anyway, so no, the problem I have with this is that the notion that Nintendo purposely reboots Donkey Kong every 10 years. I think that's kind of ignoring the circumstances behind what happened.
the issue that I take with that notion is the word purposely.
Yeah.
I just think Nintendo sort of goes by the seat of their pants when it comes to the Donkey Kong franchise.
Nintendo pees in the wind, and if any of it splashbacks on them, oh well.
Yeah, so be it. So you got a little Jungle Beat on your trousers.
Obviously, like, yes, Donkey Kong Country was basically a full-blooded reboot of Donkey Kong, although the old stuff was still canon, so technically it's all thrown around the word reboot a little bit liberally there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that was, because the Donkey Kong franchise was basically dead in the water at that point. Rare kind of put their own stamp on it and gave it an identity separate from Mario. And then what happened was Rare was bought by Microsoft, and Nintendo had a lot of competing visions for where to take the franchise.
Yeah, there was, with no guiding principle or no studio to really take it on, we saw a lot of experimentation with the DK franchise, not really rebooting it. It was sort of it was very on very unsteady ground. Some of it worked, like the Pay-On games.
Well, we think they worked. I don't know if the mainstream audience would say
okay,
that.
I don't know about financially, but I think
not that they ever promoted King of Swing games to begin with, so it's on them if they never sold.
Sure, but King of Swing and Jungle Climber were, I think, at least considered on our website and by the majority of our forum to be superior games to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series.
Well, I think, you had like the attempt to do the arcade revival with Mario vs. Donkey Kong. You had the attempt to outdo Donkey Kong Country with more Japanese sensibilities with Jungle Beat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the we love these characters and this world love letters to everything with the Pay-On games.
Right.
So you had, like, again, three very and then you had the Rare Game Boy Advance ports just to muck it up even further. So you actually had four competing visions during this decade of Donkey Kong that I don't know if you would call any of this a reboot so much as just we don't know what to do with Donkey Kong and we don't have anybody to tell us otherwise.
Yeah, so in the absence of a guiding philosophy, I mean, it has been such a breath of fresh air to have Retro come in and sort of say, no, this is what the Donkey Kong series is, and let's grow from there.
Yeah.
So I think if we're going to even operate kind of within that premise, I'd say your quote-unquote reboot or reset happened much less than 10 years ago. I think it would have been 2010.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know.
That's how you subtract.
Well, hey, I'm just glad when I can successfully do math in my head. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that, I don't think Retro is making the next Donkey Kong game. I don't think they're making a Donkey Kong game next. I think they may have notions of where to take Donkey Kong, but I really think after the Tropical Freeze backlash that they would be, and I hate to say this, I think they would be suicidal to take it on.
Well,
again.
I don't know about, suicidal in what way? From a PR standpoint? Because if they make a Donkey Kong game, another Donkey Kong Country, it's going to sell very well because they kind of all do.
Well, it's going to sell at least 1 million copies, but I don't. It would also eat into sales of Tropical Freeze. I'm not sure how well another DKC game would do on the Wii U at this point.
I think if anything, it's far too premature for us to see any sequel at E3. It would be at least another year.
Honestly, I could see them doing Donkey Kong 64 2-ish. I could see them going 3D with it.
Right, and mind you, when I say it's premature, I'm talking about from Retro Studios.
Yeah, exactly. It's very possible we'll see something Donkey Kong at E3.
I'm still hoping for a handheld mainline DKC style series. Call it Donkey Kong Land Returns, whatever you want to call it. I would love if it adopted the Land moniker, but I would honestly give that about a 50-50 for this year.
Really?
Yeah, I mean
that's far more optimistic odds than you usually ever give anything going into E3.
This is what's happened to me. It's like I normally I am the Siegfried to your Ted the Boat Builder, but hey, this year I'm feeling like I got a little boat building skill in me. It's
you feel a little salty.
I'm feeling a little salty, like my gullet has had some rum and coconut prawns.
It's because you've been using my semen cookbook.
Oh.
You got a little semen in you. Like Ted the Boat Builder, he's a seaman.
Next call?
No, I just wanted to say that...
you just want to talk about semen more.
Well, obviously. I mean, it's delicious. But I think that Mr. Gibbon, I think that Retro kind of established that Donkey Kong Country works. Our style of Donkey Kong Country works. So I think you've kind of got this brethren of Donkey Kong now between Retro and Monster Games. And if the series is going to continue with them, then you're going to see the franchise continue in that template. I don't think we're going to see, even if it's another studio like maybe Camelot even taking it on, I don't think you're going to see too much of a radical reinvention of what Donkey Kong is.
Yeah, and part of that is a good thing, but it makes sure that we don't wind up with an experiment like Jungle Beat. But there is a flip side to that where you do want a studio to feel like they don't just have to rehash, because then we wind up with the new Super Mario Brothers series.
Yeah, although I would argue that we would never have to worry about Donkey Kong Country being as paint by numbers as New Super Mario Brothers, just by the virtue of what Donkey Kong Country is and how what makes a Donkey Kong Country game different from Mario is how in-depth the world is and how organic everything is. So I think by design, it's not just going to be so tile-based as New Super Mario Brothers, and it just looks like it was made with a game creation tool,
But maybe they could call it Mario Maker.
Yeah.
No, but I think that what that would require, though, is the studio that takes on the series to understand that. And Retro did,
and so did Monster in those levels they made for Returns 3D.
Right, but that was within a game that had that same style. You know what I mean?
I know.
It was basically they would have had to go out of their way to ignore what Retro had established. But I do love that Retro took the notion of these being logical worlds that operate with some sort of. They don't go to the floating objects and platforms well. They have these intricate mechanisms that make things happen in the background. I think that they took. Rare didn't even have that because they didn't have the technology for it.
Rare tried to do it as much as they could.
But it wasn't really possible all the time with the Super Nintendo. Thankfully, Retro realized that was Rare's intention, and they executed it. I would like whoever takes the Donkey Kong Country series next to really embrace that.
Right, and that's the great thing about the Retro games is there was that evolution from the Rare games. So some things didn't get carried over, but that aspect did, and I feel like that's really important for the visual identity of Donkey Kong Country. Is what we talked about last week with Zeppelin.
Right, yeah, the aesthetic conversation.
Yeah.
So anyway,
right.
Now can we move on?
Well, I have more semen recipes to share.
Hey, you guys, it's me, Mamachi again. And today, I want to ask you guys about cameo games. Now, we all know that because Donkey Kong is considered a Mario character to some people, he appears in all of the Mario sports games, the party games, Super Smash Brothers, whatever. So, Sometimes, we just get Donkey Kong and that's it. Sometimes, we get a jungle stage that may or may not be faithful. And, well, sometimes we get a special surprise like Mario Super Sluggers, which, had King K. Rool and the rest of it, and a few other Kongs too. So, basically, what I'm trying to get at is, would you guys prefer it if we'd have more cameo games with more DK related stuff, even if they're not good games, or we just not have Donkey Kong in them at all? So, like Mario Party 11, we have, the Congo Jungle, we have King K. Rool as a boss, Dixie Kong, Cranky, Funky make appearances and everything, but, it's a mediocre game that's pretty terrible. Would you have that, or just have him not show up at all anymore? Now, I'm not going to mention Smash Brothers. That doesn't count for cameo games as this discussion. So no, everyone would love King K. Rool to be in it. I'm personally lost all hope again because, as we all know, everyone wants a new Marth for something. By the way, Fire Emblem Awakening's a dating sim, so just think about that when you think about the character choices. But just say it one more time. What would you prefer? Mario Super Sluggers with King K. Rool, just the whole Kong game over there, and it's kind of a crappy game, or just leave Donkey Kong out of these shameful games? Now, if you ask me, I just want to have some more Donkey Kong Country games.
I knew we'd get him in one of these days. Mamechi, my man.
Hello, Mamechi. Well, okay, so I kind of nodded off during this question.
I think he did too. It was about cameo games after all.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if Mamechi was actually like a sleepwalker who just called into the conversation? Like in his waking life, he has no clue even what Donkey Kong is, but as he sleepwalks, he's really gotten into this community.
He'll have the first diagnosed case of sleep podcastery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Sleep apnea.
Oh, Jesus. As soon as you said sleep, I was like, I knew where you were going, and that was a really clever pun.
Yes! I did it.
In the same way that our show's title is a really clever pun.
It says it in the theme song every week. How could you be wrong?
That's true. It's that is an unalienable fact. So, I would prefer... I would go along with Mamechi on this one. I would rather Donkey Kong had not appeared in Mario Party 10. So
as far as like things like Mario Party goes, I just want to be done with it, and I want to move on. We don't need it. Mario Kart is different in that
I would say the parties and the sports, I could kind of lose those. Kart and Smash. Especially Kart, because they've really started to get Kart right. Smash.
Well, you're a huge Kart 8 fan.
I am, and I was such a fucking cynic about this series, and Mario Kart 8 has won me over. I mean, I don't want there to be a Mario Kart game that we don't get to cover.
Yeah, I just if let's say we don't get Diddy Kong Racing Wii U, and by the way, I do believe in Kevin Callahan, so that just seems like an impossibility at this point. But if we don't get it, then I'm really going to be discouraged by the lack of Kong elements. I either want them to go all in on Mario Kart with the Kongs, or not at all.
I will say that, so one of the pieces of news that we're probably going to discuss, the Mario Kart 8 second DLC track pack drops later this month.
We already discussed that 2 weeks ago.
Right. But in the last 2 days, when you listen to this earlier in the week, we have finally gotten to see what some of those tracks are. And there's yet another Shy Guy track. It's we only know the Japanese name, but it's essentially a forest that is basically the forests from Donkey Kong Country with their little Ewok-style villages. It's just populated by Shy Guys. And then
how can you screw that up?
And then, they also screwed up the minecart stage in the previous DLC track pack. That was also a Shy Guy stage.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was in the main game, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're basically in these stages in Mario Kart that would make perfect sense to be Donkey Kong themed. They go with Shy Guy. So that's a little disappointing to me, but the core game is so good. And I mean, while it does have some frustrating elements, they have started to introduce defensive items, and I feel like
we've had this
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah.
Mario Kart 8 is far superior to any Mario Karts from the last decade.
And I guess the point is, knowing what they've done with Mario Kart, and especially how they're keeping it alive throughout what I hope is the length of the Wii U's lifespan, I don't want another Mario Kart where Donkey Kong isn't in it, because I feel like they have now acknowledged the pitfalls of previous Mario Kart games, and they can only improve upon it.
Or they could just ignore every improvement they made and backtrack again.
There's literally no way for us to know which direction they'll go.
That's the thing about Mario Kart. It's anyway. So
you'd like to think they operate under common sense.
But
also we don't want to lose DK from Smash, just because, as we know, for good or bad, Smash Brothers is the kingmaker.
Kingmaker,
and
yeah.
we want our franchise
Mentos is the fresh maker.
That's true. Yeah.
So I would like to see, if Diddy Kong Racing Wii U for some reason isn't happening, I want Diddy in Mario Kart. I want Funky in Mario Kart. I want K. Rool in Mario Kart. I think we're past the point where we have this fear of Donkey Kong characters being considered Mario characters. There's a certain subset of people, they're always going to be Mario characters. But you look at things like the Jack Specific toys. They're no longer being branded as Mario figures anymore. They're actually Donkey Kong figures.
Right. Under the world of Nintendo.
Right. I'm just saying that, we're past the point where you buy, something Mario related or something Donkey Kong related and has Mario branding.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's due to the success and return of Donkey Kong Country. So, I'm not worried about them being a Mario Kart anymore, but I do agree I could lose the Mario parties, even the Mario golf and tennises. And
the golf one is, I was about to defend the Mario golf games, but the last one was kind of a disappointment.
It was kind of underwhelming, and I hate to say that.
Yeah, because I generally like what Camelot does.
Toadstool Tour was just such a good game, such a magnificent game that it's just a shame.
And of course, the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color one.
Right. But I'm saying, as far as just the more authentic golfing experience, the golfing simulator, I feel like Toadstool Tour, just the 3DS game was limp.
Yeah. There were very few Pikmin in the 3DS version.
Anyway, thank you for the call, Mamechi.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chad and Hyle, it's MF Wolf again. Last week was my first week listening to the podcast and calling in. This week was my first week on the forums, and I gotta tell you, it was exciting to say the least. And also, by the way, last week you wondered if my name was Multiple Sclerosis Wolf or Motherfucking Wolf, and it is, in fact, Motherfucking Wolf. Now that I've said motherfucking on a podcast, I can't run for president. Here's the question that I sacrificed my presidential candidacy for. Rare Studios had a tendency in the late 90s to kind of forget about Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong games. DKC 2 and 3 did not feature Donkey Kong as a playable character, as I'm sure you know, and DK64 had Donkey Kong as a playable character, but even though he was the main character of the five...
Well, thank you, MF Wolf. Your call kind of cut off there, so I'm still wondering if you are MS Wolf, because I think maybe you kind of twitched and hit the end button there.
That was going to be the big twist at the end of his gall. Just kidding. I have multiple sclerosis, which was the big twist in the middle of the West Wing.
Right, twist and all sorts of other contortions.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, come on. You set me up for that, and you know it.
Kinda. See, I like to give Hyle these these slow pitches that when he can't resist the urge to take a swing, it makes him look like an asshole.
Right. This is how Hitler actually became. Hitler was actually a very nice guy, but he was just a very able comedian. and it was Himmler that set him up all these times. And then before you know it, it's the Holocaust.
Yeah. He kept making all these really tasteless jokes about gassing the Jews.
They just had to follow through. They yes-anded themselves into World War II.
Oh, see, that's why Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is such a bad improv comedian. He never yes ends the Holocaust.
Anyway, MF Wolf, yes, you can never run for president, especially now.
Yeah, now that you're associated with not only this show but this specific response.
Can you suss out what he was trying to ask, Chad?
Yeah, so he started talking about how Donkey Kong was sort of overlooked or maybe set to the side in his own games, or at least games that had his title. Of course, Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. But even Donkey Kong 64, he was one of 5 playable characters. More if you count Minicar. But I'm guessing what he was going to get to is whether we want Donkey Kong to now always be the hero, as he seems to be in Retro's games, or if we would go back, if we would like to see a return where other characters get the limelight.
I want the diversity. I don't think he should necessarily be cast aside or for them to contrive like kidnappings again,
Mm-hmm.
but I would like a game where it's maybe just a Dixie Kong game, like maybe for the 3DS or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just have a Dixie Kong game.
Would you make it a Dixie Kong game where it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer, or would you go like the Tingles Rosie Rupee Land route?
I'm open for anything, really.
Yeah, like any game headlining Dixie Kong, you'd be interested in.
So long as it's good. I mean, so long as it's
Well.
fun and it's not just a cheap piece of shit with Dixie slapped on it. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, look, we got Diddy Kong Racing, so give Dixie her own sub-series. Sure. My thing is, like, I know a lot of people kind of look back on those games and they're like, well, Rare cast Donkey Kong aside. But when we talked to Chris Sutherland the other week, he basically said it was just an attempt to do something different with the sequel. They just didn't want to have a paint-by-number sequel. And the easiest way to do that was, well, let's make Diddy the star and have a new character. You know,
Yeah, I think it was. They probably just wanted to break up the gameplay and level design, and by not only having Diddy but Dixie, a character that has a completely different gameplay mechanic in that she could float. That probably informed a lot of the design of the levels, and that was interesting to them.
Yeah, and then
it was them. That's really the vibe that I got from Chris Sutherland, is that they were entertaining themselves while they were making this. It was a creative exercise for Rare, and
they're fans just like we are,
Yeah.
you know. And the only difference is they then make the games that we're fans of. But I think, and then by the time I think DKC3 rolled around, it was just kind of a no-brainer. Well, we've got to afford Dixie the same opportunity that we gave Diddy, and there was never like this desire by Rare. Well, Donkey Kong's Nintendo's character, we want to sideline him and focus on our own creations. No, because they brought him back with DK64, obviously, and he was going to be in every game in the E3 2000 reveals.
Mhm.
Or was it E3 2001? I always
2001.
It would be 2001. Yeah, because
Really?
yeah, because Banjo-Tooie was already out.
No, because the GameCube debuted in 2001, so there's no way they would have debuted Dinosaur Planet in summer of 2001. It had to be.
No,
2000.
that was Star Fox Adventures, though. That was when they announced it was
That's
Star
what I'm
Fox
saying.
Adventures.
So Dinosaur Planet was part of the coconut crackers and everything. That would have been 2000.
2000.
2000 flat.
Really?
Yep, has to be.
Mm.
Because look, Conker came out before E3 2001. There's no way Dinosaur Planet.
Yeah, and Coconut Crackers and all that was after Conker.
Okay, then maybe was Dino Planet 2000 and Coconut Crackers and all and
And then Star Fox Adventures. They announced it was Star Fox Adventures at E3 2001.
Oh, okay. So for some reason I was associating Dino Planet with.
No, that was E3 2000.
Right.
Dino Planet.
Okay,
But
I had them all grouped in my mind. This was an incredibly interesting thing for the listener to listen to.
yeah, it was our memories failing us. But yeah, E3 2001 was the magic E3 where we got all those games that we didn't actually end up getting.
Yes, but they all involve Donkey Kong in some capacity.
Yeah. Donkey. He was even in Diddy Kong Pilot. So, yeah, I think he was going to become a fixture going forward in Rare's Donkey Kong games.
Now, I will say that one of my favorite features of Tropical Freeze was Hero Mode, where you can select to play as any of the playables, and I would like to see the next Donkey Kong Country game, maintain a lot of the elements that Retro introduced or reinforced, like we talked about earlier, but I want to see them decouple the two main characters. I think it's interesting how they basically, they allowed the second player to piggyback if it gets too difficult. There's a lot of cool stuff they did that really feeds into local multiplayer, and I'm all about co-op gaming. I think it's great. But I think that also sort of tied them up a little bit and restricted what they could do by necessitating that Donkey Kong himself must always be able to do everything, and the other characters just make it a little easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, Donkey Kong has just an interesting cast, and I think that the fact that you have so many characters who could viably be the star of their own game isn't a bad thing.
A la the Playtonic way of thinking.
Right. And so, the fact that you've got Diddy, Dixie, Cranky now, who are all like established video game heroes who have all earned the right to star in their own games.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I like that Donkey Kong doesn't always have to be the star. And by the nature of his character, he shouldn't care about it either because he's so laid back and he, probably wants a break every now and then.
A nuts and bolts style game starring Funky Kong would actually be pretty appropriate.
Yeah, that would have been. I wonder if in an alternate timeline, if Nuts and Bolts for the Wii would be like Funky Kong's Nuts and Bolts.
It might. There's once again literally no way to know unless we wait for Professor Farnsworth to invent his universe-creating machine. But that fictional scenario aside, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with our hypothetical response to the end of MF Wolf's question.
Well, there you go. We hope in some reality we answered the question you were going to ask, MF Wolf.
Yeah, and if not, we hope that you can wait. I guess at this point it would be 993 years. I'm sorry, 993 years. For the professor to invent his box machine.
Or you can just wait and call in again.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could do that.
All right, Chad. Thank you for calling, everybody. But we've got some news we need to get to, and we've wasted so much time already.
Wasted? Come on. This is quality entertainment. Donkey Kong 64 is out today in the U.S., finally.
Yes, and we are going to, I guess we can make this announcement. We're going to have a spotlight episode for it.
Well, we alluded to that earlier in the show. But
did we?
I mentioned it.
I honestly don't pay attention to the show.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a spotlight episode for it, but we need to talk about, I think, really quick, just our first impressions, because Chad and I just played the game, not for the first time, but for the first time on the Virtual Console, and an hour to 30 minutes before we started recording.
Yeah, so, when was the last time you really played Donkey Kong 64?
Probably the year 2000.
Yeah, I would say mine is 99, 2000. I can't remember if I 100%ed before then or not, but...
I 101%ed it, I think, before... And I'm sure somebody's going to go back on DK Vine's updates, and I'm going to be saying, like, in February 2000, finally beat DK 64.
Yeah.
But I think I did it before New Year's. I don't really remember, but I know in 2000 I probably started up another game file, file 3 probably, and got a little bit into it, and I just realized I don't need to do this again.
Yeah, and Banjo-Tooie was almost out,
and we were working on DK Vine at that time, and there was all these other games coming out that have come out. And
E3 2000, as we established, was a very busy year for us.
Well, not as busy as E3 2001, as we then established as well.
Oh,
but
yeah, I forgot about that.
You already forgot?
We established my memory issues.
Good Lord, Chad. It's getting pretty bad at this point.
Yeah, I only have about... it's getting to Royston levels at this point.
Anyway, so, yeah, I it was probably spring of 2000 last time I legitimately played it and not just watched walkthroughs on YouTube.
Yeah. So I really haven't touched it since then either, and apart from kind of utilitarian purposes like gathering imagery for DK Vine, character picks, that kind of thing.
I didn't even do that. So this is really like the first time I picked it up in a while, and I didn't have problems with the controllers. I know some people are having trouble because there's no way to really match the N64 controller to the gamepad.
Right.
But for me, I've established this on DK Vine before. I've always held the N64 controller incorrectly. I held it on the two outside prongs, and because of that, funny enough, the gamepad actually feels like an N64 controller.
See, I have no problem kind of remapping, just sort of changing the way that my hands are holding the controller or the placement of my hands, as long as the buttons are more or less the same. But the big issue that I have with the Virtual Console, and maybe it's because I play 3D platformers really leaning on the camera controls heavily, and maybe I do that more than other gamers, but I really dislike mapping those digital C buttons to the right analog stick. I kept trying to move the camera left and right, and it would zoom in and go to first person view, or I couldn't get it right. And I need to be able. The way that I play these games is that I'm constantly just tapping the cameras to. I'm trying to direct the camera while I'm moving the character around, sort of.
Well, I forgot how much you had to do that in N64 games. I was like, is this just the way they've mapped the camera, or is this actually how it used to be in the day, and I've just gotten soft?
No, it is how it was, and the camera controls in that generation were fairly primitive, and honestly, Again, there is a lot of frustration in the fact that I can't hit the correct direction reliably, given the...
you can just hit the one button and put the camera behind Donkey or whatever Kong you're using.
Yeah, I know that, but I like to zoom in and out, and I don't always want it behind Donkey.
You like to see Donkey's glorious ass, right?
Of course, and I want to see if there's any light emanating from it. They do have those dynamic lighting effects in this game.
That's right.
But... I've been replaying Banjo-Tooie, the Nintendo 64 version, and the camera in that game is nowhere near as rough as at least the first 20 minutes of DK64 has been so far.
Yeah. My biggest issue with the controller is where the Z button. There's no Z button on the gamepad, so they mapped it.
You have ZL and ZR.
Yeah, but it's not at the back of the N64, like the N64 controller. Remember, it was at the ass of the N64,
center, the middle prong.
Yeah, the back of it. So not having that feels very unintuitive to lose that and have to like reach over for the Z button, like especially doing things like the ground pound.
Yeah. Well, the one custom. So before I escaped from the treehouse area, I just was fed up with the camera, and I started playing with custom controls, and I found something that I think might work, but it's a little unorthodox. I'm completely ignoring the right control stick. I have mapped the C buttons to X, Y, A, and B, and I'm using start and select on the gamepad as A and B.
Weird.
It's very weird because the primary action buttons, which are normally bigger than the camera controls, are now smaller. And they're also in a vertical line instead of slightly at an angle, so it takes some getting used to. But I will say that having digital input for those camera controls makes a world of difference. And it's actually slightly better for me than using the right stick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I can get the hang of it the way it's pre-mapped. So
I need precision. I need analog controls to be analog. I need digital controls to be digital. That's why I don't want Nintendo to just port things to touchscreen devices. I need to feel like I am in control of a game, or I will dislike that game.
Yeah. Well, it's been so long since I played DK64 that I feel like like with the SNES Virtual Console releases, the DKC games, I was struggling with the layout of the controller.
Now, this is confusing to me because it is literally the exact same button layout.
Yeah, and you know what it is? It's because Retro's Donkey Kong Country games have ruined me as far as the original trilogy is concerned. I had to map the buttons to more line up with the way Retro's games are controlled.
That's bizarre. See, for me, I can my brain is able to without needing to think about it, I can switch between this is a Super Nintendo DKC. You control it this way.
Now, look, if I could somehow plug an SNES controller into the Wii U, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. But it just for some reason playing with a Wii U controller,
even the Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah,
there's a subset of a Super Nintendo controller right there at the bottom.
Yeah, I know. It's just I'm used to playing Retro's games on the Wii system, so. There you go.
Wow, man. Your brain works in mysterious ways.
It does. It's a beautiful mystery. But I did enjoy the 25 to 30 minutes I played DK64, even though that's basically watching the opening cinema and then the training area, going out meeting Kay Lumsey.
I'm sure we'll get into it on the spotlight, but how about Clump's voice?
Your Excellency,
we've already taken care of business.
Yeah, he's like a big, buff, gruff military dude, and he talks like a pervert masturbating in the back of the porno theater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do know that Rare took a little bit of inspiration from the DKC TV show with things like the Crystal Coconuts, but they certainly did not take any voice direction.
No. What I love is because I've just known DK64 for the last decade through YouTube walkthroughs, so being able to control what I'm looking at is fantastic.
It's a video game, Hyle.
I looked in Donkey Kong's treehouse, or as we call this version of it, the Watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking around the room, and
would you say you were looking all along it?
Yeah, two riders were approaching, so I had to hurry because the wind began to howl.
Well, yeah, one of them was named Squawks.
Yeah, and then I realized it was in the fracking ship.
Whoa.
I forgot that there was a girder on the other side of the Watchtower, and then there was a Cranky's old gramophone too, covered in cobwebs.
Yeah. Also,
and there's a dolphin poster as well.
There is, and something that I noticed that I guess it was like this on the N64, since this is an exact replication of that code, but you can look out the door when Squawks first comes in and the game starts, and for some reason Squawks is still there flapping right by the exit. I guess they forgot to program him away, but that's where he stops. I never knew that. I'm surprised because usually I devour these games and try and see every possible thing. But
I think Donkey Kong 64 is the game. It was just so big that it was hard to take it all in.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm really excited most about replaying this, is trying to relearn all these details I missed.
If we ever get Gavin Price on the show, who was one of the QA testers on Donkey Kong 64, I really think we should focus the show on why Squawks was still there.
I'm sure he would come on just for that reason. It's not like he has anything else to promote.
Nah. It's pretty slow in his world these days.
Anyway, we've got a spotlight episode coming up for Donkey Kong 64. I don't think we need to talk about this anymore, but it is out right now, and you know what? It's only $9.99. If you have a Wii U, if you've played it, if you think I'm never playing that game again, it's worth it alone because you get a digital version of the instruction manual.
That's worth the price of admission. So far, Hyle has a little bit of a higher opinion of it than I do. It's just the controls. I think if I was able to play the game with a controller that allowed me to have digital C button input, I feel like I could judge it more fairly.
Yeah, but that's not Donkey Kong 64.
No, not at all. And that's the thing though. I want to play it on the Virtual Console so that I can have the same experiences that everyone else is right now. But I also have my Nintendo 64 hooked up. And I kind of feel like if I'm going to do this, I might as well just go play it back on that thing.
Yeah, I know. But it's Okay.
You know, it's like and that's what frustrates me about it. But I mean, I guess that's valid here because we're going to talk about it within the context of the Virtual Console release. On the Spotlight episode, you know, I don't want to have my opinion tainted by this control clusterfuckery.
Right.
So, I don't know. It just, you know, get it for the novelty of having that on your Wii U boot screen, but you know, just go into it knowing that the controls could be a little wonky if you appreciate precision.
Agree, but yeah, give it a shot because hey, it's Donkey Kong 64 on the goddamn Virtual Console.
And,
who would have ever thought this would have happened?
And you get to see the original instruction manual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
in far less important news, some Smash Brothers DLC came out.
Who cares about Smash Brothers?
Nobody.
Ew.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, so they finally released Mewtwo along with extra costuming options for your Mii fighters.
The microtransactions. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Fuck that. So yeah, if you want to go pay 75 cents a pop to decorate your Mii fighter, hooray!
Yeah.
That's the slippery slope I was hoping Nintendo would avoid, but thankfully it's not a play to win. It's just extra content, but it's kind of weak in my eyes. Mewtwo, on the other hand.
Yeah, Mewtwo. I mean, I haven't played as Mewtwo. I did beat up Mewtwo with Diddy Kong on both the 3DS and the Wii U. So, yeah, Mewtwo takes a beating really well.
I secretly mained as Mewtwo alongside DK in Melee. Back in the day, Mewtwo was my favorite character from the Pokemon anime. I thought the concept of a Pokemon that was a Pokemon trainer himself was really cool, and it's a little discouraging they never went back to that well, because that's a really interesting sort of it's an issue that sort of brings up moral quandaries in the Pokemon world, and that's what they did with the first movie and then the Mewtwo Returns movie, so or Mewtwo Strikes Back, or whatever it was called. Anyway, I really dug Mewtwo, so I played as him in Melee, and it was such a breath of fresh air to play as him yesterday in this game. It was.
Does he control pretty similarly to the Melee version?
Yeah, I think that the control is virtually identical. There are a few differences in the animation that make it feel slightly different, like stop and starts to kind of emphasize movements and stuff, but it's basically the same. I mean, I fell back into the muscle memory instantly, and I was fighting like level 8, level 9 CPUs, and I was able to beat them with Mewtwo, which to so far I've only been able to do that with Diddy since I focused on him. But
apparently they nerfed Diddy a bit in this game, or in this update.
Oh yeah, I think they didn't change any of his moves. They just sort of slightly tweaked the damage by like plus or minus a percent point here or there. Yeah, whatever. People said that Diddy's OP, which means overpowered. I learned a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never knew what people meant when they would. Kazooie is so OP in Banjo. I was like, what does that mean?
I was like, original prawn? I don't.
Yeah, so he's overpowered. And yeah, that's. Okay, fine. So they balanced him out.
Honestly, like the whole competitive Smash community, I'm not a part of that, so I don't really notice things like that.
Right. But it was nice to play as Mewtwo. The other thing that I'm happy to report, and maybe your mileage may vary, but I tried playing an online Smash game again, just to, hey, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. They put out a release. Perhaps they enhanced the servers a little bit under the hood. And while there was a little bit of input lag, it was playable, and I had a fun time.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it's still frustrating because everything's delayed by about an eighth to a quarter of a second. So, but if you go to pick up an item, you have to know to press the pickup button a little bit before you actually reach the item. It's that kind of thing. You're basically you have to time shift your mind.
You have to relearn how to play the game then.
Yeah, basically. But it wasn't unplayable. That's okay. What I'm getting at. It's not a mode, the online multiplayer, that I would ever say is just as good as playing it locally. yet, but it's not the train wreck that it was when the game first came out.
Well, bully for you, Smash Brothers.
You're no longer a train wreck.
You've been upgraded to
Risky.
You're only a several car pileup at this point.
Yeah. Also in the Smash Brothers world, every time that DLC or a game or anything comes out, people immediately start digging around in the source code, and there were a few revelations to be found in this update.
It has been revealed, brought to you by Quiznos, that Roy from Fire Emblem is probably coming back as DLC because you demanded it,
I guess. Yeah.
Because Japan demanded it.
Probably
let's be honest.
Japan. Yeah, that's okay. He was he was in I don't think he was in Brawl. He was just in Melee, right?
He was just in Melee.
And he was a Marth clone in Melee.
But the Smash purists in Japan love like their returning characters, and they want Roy back. So,
yeah. All right. So Roy's coming back, but that's That's the lesser.
That's the lesser. There's also
Ryu.
Ryu.
Yeah, oh, you say Ryu. Okay.
I say Ryu. You say Ryu.
Let's just call the whole fucking show off. Yeah, there was actually. So the two bits of data that were found were Ryu's Street Fighter 2 victory ditty, along.
Wait, Diddy? What does Diddy have to do with Ryu?
You actually have clearly never unlocked that mode in Super Street Fighter 2 Alpha Kong Edition.
Oh my God! I missed the DKU game.
The slush fund is null and void.
Let me slip my wrist. So
there was that theme that when Ryu wins a match in Street Fighter 2, it plays, which is the same sort of thing they do in Smash Brothers, as well as Ryu's stage theme, which I didn't know that Street Fighter had character-specific stages, but apparently it did. Anyway, that music, in all its 16-bit sounding glory, is in the DLC for the latest Smash Brothers release. So
I honestly don't care. I think that Ryu and Street Fighter 2 in general is very important to at least the SNES. And I feel like I believe that the SNES version was the version to get as far as Street Fighter 2 goes.
Sure. Well, I mean, Ken and Ryu are the two main Street Fighter guys. So
right. I'm just saying, like, as far as importance to Nintendo, this isn't necessarily a Solid Snake kind of thing where. It's just out of left field.
And there already is a Capcom character in the game via Mega Man. So
yeah, but nobody ever said that there's one third party port per company. It's just per series,
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is that, I mean, obviously we know that something's probably going to happen with Street Fighter in general because this music is in the game, and there wouldn't be content in the game unless there was some reason for it. But also that what I'm getting at is they've established a contractual relationship with Capcom for these titles. So it's if it was another third party like Microsoft for a voted in Banjo and Kazooie, it would be a little harder to believe, but I think this is probably going to be part of their E3 presentation.
I agree. I think that everybody was saying, they're going to show off Wolf DLC at E3 to tie in with Star Fox.
They already have Falco is already a Fox clone. Like, why do we want Wolf in the game now?
People want Wolf back. I don't know.
Why don't we just make another Falco costume and it will be Wolf? They did the same thing with Bowser Jr. and it worked fine. Don't take another roster slot.
Well, people want Wolf back. I don't know, but they thought that they're going to show off Wolf for E3 because they're going to be showing off the Star Fox game, and so it's obviously going to be Ryu.
Star Fox
E3.
cannot carry an E3. That is not going to be Nintendo's big thing.
Well,
Zelda will be their big thing.
They're not going to show Zelda at E3. They already said.
Did they say they're not even going to show it?
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I mean, I knew it wasn't coming out this year, but I thought at least it would be at the show.
And Kevin Callahan smiles because he knew all along what the big game of E3 2015 would be.
Yeah.
Diddy Kong Racing saves the day again. No, I don't think since when does Nintendo anchor an E3 around one game? They've never done that.
If anything, they'll anchor it around a peripheral.
Right. But I mean, they'll do it for a system, or they'll do it. But I mean, there's never just a singular focus. Like, this is all we're talking about at this E3.
Yeah.
Star Fox is going to be there. There's also going to be a lot of games we don't know about. So I'm sorry, Internet, you don't know everything. But yeah, I don't know. Ryu, I think, is obviously going to be an E3 trailer reveal, whatever. I am worried a bit how this is going to affect the ballot.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, but if they've already decided Roy's coming back, Ryu is going to be there, will they just say, okay, well, people want Wolf back according to the ballot done. And then
wait, Wolf's not leading in the ballot. Where are you getting this from?
As far as returning characters, he is.
Okay, but that's not what the ballot's about, is it?
Well, it could be.
No, it couldn't. No, it couldn't.
Sakurai could justify that's what the ballot is about. Oh, well, people want Wolf back.
Okay, well,
I'm listening to the people.
Okay, well, they are not beholden to follow the ballot whatsoever, but the ballot does not specify returning or new fighters. So, K. Rool is leading if you just look at the ballot result. I mean,
well, K. Rool's
why are you're going out of your way to find a hypothetical scenario to be disappointed about? Why?
I'm not. I am opening myself to the possibility because yes, K. Rool is what I wanted to talk about was K. Rool is doing very well in most polls.
I think that's a great way to frame this story.
However, Sakurai could be stubborn and just say, "Well, I don't want K. Rool, so I'm just going to frame the ballot however I want to see it."
Okay, well, the Hubble telescope could see an asteroid headed for Earth, and because we need a cliffhanger in season 8 of The West Wing, but that's
very, very nice. Another West Wing reference.
Yeah, thank you. Although would it have been season 7? Did they have 8 seasons?
They had 7 because they skipped a year.
That's right, 7. Anyway, an asteroid could be headed for Earth, and none of this would matter. I mean, yes, literally anything could happen. Sakurai could pull the rug out from under this thing, but why engage in negative, unlikely hypotheticals?
Because I don't want to be all sunshine and roses. Honestly, I'm trying not to care about this.
That's the tone. Apathy is the way to go.
I'm trying to be extremely apathetic about this. I am very, very, very much pleased about the support K. Rool is getting and I'm more concerned about how it's going to affect K. Rool outside of Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing Nintendo that, hey, people care about Donkey Kong characters, even if you don't want to put them in Smash Brothers. Sakurai.
Yeah, they are fresh.
Yeah, they are fresh, and we like K. Rool. We're fond of the characters, and they're not just replaceable.
Yeah.
No offense to the Snowmans, because I like.
I would say K. Rool is so fresh that we deserve to know why does Dad doesn't love him, man. Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil. All right, well, enough about Smash Brothers because it's already tearing us apart. It's tearing us apart, Chad. It's creating unnecessary strife between us.
Well, yeah. Let us move on to rosier pastures. I don't think that's a saying. Project Spark.
All right,
of course, Conquer is coming out in like a week. It's any day now.
Conker's Big Reunion, the full-fledged sequel to Bad Fur Day that takes place a decade later, and then of course Hail to the Remix, which is the creation pack that they've dubbed that for some reason, and it's going to have. They announced this week, and they actually released a trailer on Thursday that there's going to be 350 plus assets, which I don't know, can't just say 352 or 353.
Yeah.
And this is just an initial asset pack. There will be more later on, but 350 plus assets in the initial one, including playable characters. There's Conker. Birdie will be playable.
Okay, well here let me specify something here. Saying that something in Project Spark is playable really is a sort of a hollow selling point because Project Spark can let you make anything playable.
Yes,
I mean you could make an inanimate like a rock playable in Project Spark because it gives you that much freedom. So yeah, Birdie's playable, but so's a tree.
Right, but they're going to have specific animations for playable Birdie. So
That's what you're getting at. Okay, so maybe when they say playable, they mean that he is going to be a champion. Because
Maybe.
that's what they call their official playable characters in Spark.
I'm shamefully not up on Project Spark terminology yet.
I'm still on the periphery of the whole Spark community because as we established, I don't have the hardware to get into it yet, but
Yeah.
I believe that's how it works. Champions are the
It's
playables.
like reading fucking Variety. They speak a whole other language.
Yeah, but at least they use full words.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, Birdie will be maybe a champion. He'll be playable, whatever, however you want to define it. Also, the key will be playable.
Did we ever put the key on the characters list?
I don't know. He has a neon, so
Okay, well, the key is a singular character. He's not a drone, so it's nice to see
Yeah.
they're giving him his due.
yeah, the key moving up in DKU rankings. Maybe he'll be in the Hall of Fame this year. Also, and it's been a while since I've had a Spanish class, Chad. So you need to help me out here. Fejo or Fejo?
Fejo.
Fejo.
Yeah.
Fejo, which roughly translates to wad.
Oh, no,
of
actually, it'd be
cash.
fajo. Fajo.
Fajo.
Yeah.
Fajo. It roughly translates to wad of cash.
Which I guess this was the real name for the wad of cash thing. Do you think that was maybe like when they were programming the game, that was the file name they gave, but there was no way for any of us to know?
This has been bandied about for years on DK Vine, and I don't think we ever knew where it came from, but it's been out there for several years now.
This is the first I've ever heard of it, of the wad of cash collectible being referred to as fajo.
Yeah, when Sean and I were trying to set up a Donkey Kong Universe wiki, which crashed and burned, it was one of the articles on the wiki, or somebody tried to keep calling the cash fajo, and Sean wouldn't have it. He was like, "What's the source for this?" And apparently there is some greater source, because there you go.
It was probably a Conquer developer that he kept undoing their change. They're like, I'm telling you, it's called fajo.
It's like how we said we threatened to ban Chris Seaver for reasons.
I'm so embarrassed by that. I was 19.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah.
Anyway, also in Conquer character parlance, everyone calls Chucky Poo the Great Mighty Poo.
Right.
But if you look at in the credits, the song is titled Chucky Poo's Lament.
He's Chucky Poo, right?
He's Chucky Poo.
Right. Also, there are Teddy's enemies are included. And you can get landscape, which is called Windy Grassland, which is, I guess, just a generic Conquer landscape that you can create with.
Yeah,
and
I think that's more like textures, and it was to make things look like Conquer. Yeah.
Or Conquer's Bad Fur Day, not so much Pocket Tales.
If only.
And there's they promised 6 context-sensitive powers. And they've showed, I believe, 3 of them on the trailer. And there was a farting conquer with gas mask. There was a giant conquer with a like a dinosaur head, Godzilla head, breathing fire.
Yeah, kind of. It looked a little bit like Reptar from Rugrats.
Okay, Reptar, yeah. And finally, there was, I think, our favorite. Disco mode.
Yeah. It sort of reminded me of the insect nightclub in Jet Force Gemini, but like the idea is that Conquer dons an afro with a pick in it, and a disco ball comes down, and he dances his enemies to death.
Yeah, it just having played Donkey Kong 64 a bit, it reminded me of the way Chunky appears at the beginning of the DK rap.
Yeah,
and he realizes they're not going full on a Saturday Night Fever, and he runs out of there. And
yeah, there are a lot of good gags like that in the DK64 intro that I'd forgotten about.
It's amazing because that's another thing. Like watching the opening cinema, I was reminded. You forget the limitations of N64 animation and how much like Rare sold you based on so little.
Yeah.
Like so many like character quirks and ticks and little humorous gags, and it's amazing the amount of personality they were able to put in so little.
Yeah, especially, I mean, hey, Conker's Bad Fur Day, which really took the animation capabilities of the N64 to a completely different level.
Well, we've often joked that Conker's Bad Fur Day was less of a game and more of an interactive movie.
Right,
and,
you could tell where their effort went, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's
But at least it made it different from Banjo-Kazooie, which is the whole reason they went the Bad Fur Day route to begin with.
yeah. And while I think that, I mean, I don't think this is a controversial statement. The game design of Banjo-Tooie, especially, and hey, Kazooie, if that's more your preference, just run circles around Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh yeah.
The narrative elements in Conker's Bad Fur Day are fucking brilliant, and
Conker's Bad Fur Day is a Greek tragedy.
yeah, I mean it's a different thing. It's distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's not to say that it's any. It excels in areas that other rare 3D platformers did not, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
But
also,
well, I'm gonna guess that. So we only saw 3 of those context-sensitive powers. I'm gonna guess that one of the ones that we haven't seen is pissing, because I'd be shocked if they didn't put that in
well,
there.
it's a new era. Maybe he just whips out his cock and masturbates furiously to steal a line from Matt Corna.
Yeah. Well, if he's hungry. There might be a cookbook for that. No, I recall there was, I don't know if we talked about it on the show yet, but they released an official trailer for episode 1 of Conker's Big Reunion that has the Inception style blom.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about it because we had the Silverbacker episode last week.
There was a lot of cool stuff in there. There's a Teddy's boss that looks like there's kind of green crystals popping out of him, and it sort of reminded me of when you meet the Experiment and Reagan. How you walk up and it seems like something else.
Mommy, you got any jelly beans?
But there was.
Hey, what are you still doing here, Ronnie? I thought you cleared out of here like 5 years ago.
Well, you leave a bicycle pump on the.
Well, I'm gonna go plow an intern. I hope Nancy Sackett didn't see that coming.
I think the lawn needs mowing.
Okay, so I noticed your Reagan is basically Nixon with a sore throat.
Yeah, soft-spoken Nixon with a sore throat who has severe Alzheimer's. That's kind of what I was going for.
Bravo.
I feel like I nailed it. No, in that trailer, what I was getting at is very briefly, for like a half second, in one of the clips, you can see Conker drunkenly stumbling. So it's to me that the only reason Conker drunkenly stumbled in Bad Fur Day was to get to a spot where he could piss it all out. So
Well, he also stumbled at the very beginning of the game when he had to sober up.
No, that was a hangover. He was holding his head and just walking slowly.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that the pissing mechanic is somewhere in the game. But that trailer, by the way, I mean, we shouldn't not discuss that. That looked it sold me on the idea of this being a Conker game in the same way that the first teaser sold me on Project Spark as a creation utility.
I think the line that most DK Viners cream themselves over and didn't eat it afterwards, I should mind you. They just cleaned up after themselves and threw it away in a tissue or flushed it down the toilet. I think that the line that really sold me that this is a continuation that's going to respect what came before is where Conker says, I'm no hero.
Right. Yeah.
And I like that it's a Conker who's kind of down on himself, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, 10 years have passed, and we know that
I don't want him to be like a morose emo wreck, but I almost said emu wreck, emu, and I was like, I don't want to be like a lamer ostrich, but no, I don't want him to see like Mamechi Conker. Well, hi guys.
I just like the idea
Conker.
that he's a little reticent. He was the king. We don't know what happened there.
I think he could still be the king.
Yeah.
Well, his champion, one of his alternate costumes, is the king wardrobe.
Oh well, so yeah, that's another Project Spark thing. Is they don't they don't really have like pre-made things so much as they let you augment objects with other objects. So that one is more like it's a crown that you can probably put on anyone. Like Birdie could be the king if you wanted to. But it is it is the crown from the end of Conquer's Bad Fur Day.
And the beginning.
And the beginning, yes. It's the crown from the framing device.
Right. So I don't know. We'll wait to see. I mean, I guess we'll find out in a week or so. But I kind of hope he's still the king. He's just I don't know, because that's just kind of the status quo I've set in my head for the last decade. Is Conquer is the king.
Yeah, and I will say that in a similar way to how Conquer's voice seems a little off, Birdie's is basically unintelligible.
Although it kind of was in the first game. You needed they had audio. They had like word bubbles in the first game.
True.
So.
Well, okay, so maybe it's just it sounds different. Maybe it's just as gibberishy, but it doesn't sound like Birdie.
a decade has passed, Chad. We all sound different.
Yeah, Scarecrow's aged just like the rest of us.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll be sure to discuss a lot more as far as Conquer and Project Spark goes in the weeks to come.
That's right.
Finally, I guess we have some lesser news to discuss, but this is just more us geeking out. As you mentioned earlier, Jakks Pacific's new figures have been released in the World of Nintendo line, in the Donkey Kong subsection of that line.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got the 3.5-inch Diddy, which is kind of the action figure scale.
Yeah, I was surprised at how big it was. So I ordered this. You have one as well?
Yep, mine came the other week. I wasn't gonna wait. I found it online at a reasonable price, so I ordered a copy.
A unit.
A unit, yes.
What I liked is that it included a mystery accessory.
Yes. So the Mario figures in this line, their mystery accessories come in a question mark block. For the Donkey Kong, and this is the first Donkey Kong figure to have a mystery accessory, because the only action figure scale one was the giant Donkey Kong with the horrible toothy grin head.
Yeah.
And since he's a larger scale, they didn't include an accessory with him. But the mystery item, the packaging it's wrapped in is just bananas. Kind of looks like the Donkey Kong Land 2 Super Game Boy board.
Yeah, it's a box covered in bananas.
Could have been a DK barrel, could have been a crate, but nope. They just went for bananas.
Yep.
Gee, I wonder what's inside.
Bunch of bananas.
Yeah, right. It's actually a 5 bananas, so it's a Retro Studios bunch of bananas.
Right. Yeah. I was hoping for a Whiz Pig tournament trophy, but sure, a bunch of bananas.
It's actually a really cool figure. He's very articulated. His let's see, like there was the Donkey Kong line from I think B&D back in the day, in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And they had a Diddy Kong figure in that, but he wasn't articulated at all. His tail couldn't even move. This one, man, you can pose him however you want. You can bend him, shape him.
Oh, no, the tail on the one from the Diddy Kong Racing line did move because...
The Diddy Kong Racing one, not the Donkey Kong
one. Oh, not
line.
the Donkey Kong one. Right.
Diddy Kong Racing was Toy Biz.
Okay, yeah. I am looking at the packaging for this... let's do a podcast unboxing. On the back, they have the other series from this World of Nintendo line. And sure, yeah, there's Samus, there's Luigi. They all look very well articulated. And then there's a Metroid.
Metroid and Ganondorf are the larger scale figures in this wave, in this second series.
Yeah, but the whole selling point of this line is, to me, like the really robust articulation. A fucking Metroid. It's an ellipsoid with spikes.
Well, to be fair, I'm sure after they released the Donkey Kong figure in the last series, they got complaints and they said should have been Metroid, and they took that very literally.
Yeah. So it is in fact a Metroid. But anyway, I really like this. It's on model, which you can't say for the previous World of Nintendo Donkey Kong figure. I mean, it looks perfect. It's great.
He looks straight like he came straight from the games. I love it.
Yeah.
And he's now my primary Diddy Kong on my shelf. He's next to the Super Mario Global Holdings Donkey Kong vinyl figure, which is still the definitive Donkey Kong figure for me on my shelf. And he's next to all the Donkey Kong line, like the Cranky, the Kitty, the Funky, and then the Toy Biz Banjo Diddy Kong racing figure.
Very nice. And they're all unfortunately variable scale, especially Dixie, who's teeny tiny. But
well, no, those are the 2.5 inch and lower figures that you're
right. But you don't put Dixie in with the others just because that's the only Dixie we have.
No, they're separate on the shelf. They're with the minifigures. And speaking of the minifigures, Jack Pacific has also released a mini Cranky Kong. And unfortunately, he's a little bit harder to find right now. You can get him online for like $20.
Yeah, that's where I heard from the DK Vine Facebook that it had launched a few days ago, this Cranky figure. So I went straight to Amazon, and there was only one vendor, and they've jacked up the price a bit. But I'm assuming once it gets wider production and availability, that price will go down to MSRP.
Yeah, I don't think the big box toy stores like Toys R Us have gotten their hands on them yet. So, or if they do, the scalpers have already gotten them. But at some point, Cranky will be available, and he'll be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So
the Cranky Kong is just as sought after as the Majora's Mask Special Edition Nintendo 3DS.
Well, hey man, people love Cranky Kong.
That's true.
I hope they do. They should. The only other interesting thing to talk about as far as the packaging goes is that the giant Donkey Kong figure from the last line, and then the minifigs, whatever. The Fig Newtons. The Fig Newtons of Donkey and Diddy, the little ones, they had the Tropical Freeze branding. So it was World of Nintendo Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze subseries.
Yeah.
They've done away with Tropical Freeze now. It's now just Donkey Kong. Mm-hmm. And this, you could look at this one of two ways. You could look, Nintendo's shying away from Tropical Freeze. They're ashamed of it.
No, that's stupid. That's paranoid thinking.
The optimistic thinking is that there's going to be more Donkey Kong games very soon, and they just want to bump it up to a generic Donkey Kong branding to encompass all of them.
Or even if there's not any Donkey Kong games that we will even know about soon, if nothing else, they recognize the franchise power of Donkey Kong.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it
could be independent of games, but they understand the IP itself can stand on its own legs.
So yeah, even if you're not a toy person, if you don't like collect toys, I just get them to put them up on my shelf here, above my desk. Mm-hmm. So I dig them, and I also do funny Facebook posts with them occasionally too. So.
And I get them to cram them up my pee hole.
Oh, well, you could do that too. That's what the minifigs are really great for.
Right. I mean, anything else, and it gets a little painful, but
you got to work your way up to that giant Donkey Kong with the toothy grin.
Right. The minifigs, though, like threading a needle. Jesus Christ.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.
Never could be any other way. Never could